Hello everyone and welcome back to the Knitflix Explorer. Today we're going to talk more about knitting than any exploration because there's a few things I want to discuss regarding fixing mistakes. But before that, I want to talk about fingerless mittens that I just recently finished knitting. I finished the thumb area of the knitting. I wanted to show you where the hole is, so where the thumb area is, and I wanted to show you how I fix any gaps that do form when you are creating your fingerless mittens. I'm sure some of you have knit perfectly well, but some of us that don't and do eventually find holes somewhere in those mittens or anything you do knit. I just want to show you how to pick that up. So without further ado, I will go ahead and wear that mitten on. It'll be on this hand. I will check that it is that one, and then I will show you exactly what I do to fix those little pesky little holes. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is the little thumb opening that hopefully you can see in this shot. And there is, when you knit, sometimes there is, and where I had finished, there's a little, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little disjoint between the ends. So what I do is, when you're ready to sew this in, threadle your needle like I have already done so, and then just close up that little hole there. Just sew that together, and as you can see, the moment I put the two together, you can tell straight away that the disjoint is not there anymore. And just, I would put that through a couple of times and then take the needle at the back and the thumb, and then just hide it there. So the best way to do this now is to do it from the inside out. So let me put a few stitches here. So I'm hiding the yarn. I've kind of hid it at the back, cut the needle off, cut the thread off, and you can see that it doesn't look so unsightly now. As you can see, it looks perfectly fine. And I'm gonna have to do the same, and I did the same up here as well. So I just wanna turn the glove over so you can see when I turn it inside out, what it looks like, and that's what it looks like. You can see, I just want you to see what the knitting looks like. It looks pretty neat as far as I'm concerned, and there's a reason I kept such a longish loop at the back, and this is because I wanted to use this extra yarn. So when I was picking up on the thumb, I left extra yarn over here so that I could sew out any holes, which is why I wanted to show you how I'm going to do that, and I left that deliberately so that you could see it. So I'm just going to threadle my needle here, and I will turn the glove back the right way around, and yeah, voila, the needle came through as well. So I'm going to put my hand in the glove. This is the best way I've known how to do this correctly, or so that I can see all the holes. So now if you can see, I have put the glove on, and I'll show you the whole thing. Maybe when I'm doing a wider shot of me, you'll be able to see the whole glove, and I'll show you the pattern again. However, for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm going to be looking for any gaps in the knitting. If there's any gaps in there, any holes. Now I can see one hole right here in that shot. It's right there where my fingernail is, and I want to close that gap right there. Other than that, it looks pretty good actually. So I'm going to start off with, it's difficult to do this on camera, I'm not the best at this. I'm going to, and of course, use the yarn that you need to hide. So in this case, I'm using the dark yarn. You can see a tiny little hole here. So I'm going to fix that and pop that through. And then I am going to work my way down the mitten with this needle and the yarn until I come to the bigger hole, which I think is here. So I got to the bigger hole. So I'm going to put my needle through a couple of times so it hides it well, and wow, it's instantly closed that hole. So I'm just trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. Yep, it's instantly closed that hole. I think for me to sew and to show it to you on camera it's not easy, but you get the picture of what I'm trying to achieve here, is to close those holes. And as soon as you've done that, you just work your way around till some of the yarn is kind of finished, and then you do what I showed you earlier and just hide it at the back of your knitting, and then it's done. And then I would cut that extra piece off, and as you can see, the holes have been covered and it looks good as far as I'm concerned. So take the mitten off, and then the little piece off that's sticking out there, I'll just cut that off and stretch it out a little bit more so all the stitches are lined up better, and then the yarn is, and then the mitten is finished. Right, so back again. I have now put the mittens on, and I'll show you what they look like. They're right here on my hands. They're both done. They both look amazing. You can see they have the little cable stitching down the side of there. You've got the diamond shaped pattern on one side and the other pattern on the other side. So you've got both of them. They look fantastic. I love the coloring. It's like a dark purple, perfect for fingerless mittens because they're nice, especially this bottom half where you're doing a lot of things with your hands in the winter, and it can get quite dirty. So I think that's pretty good. I think it's a good color. Of course, you can knit with light colors. In my previous videos, I've showed you some of the things I've done with light colors. However, in my last video, I talked about using acrylic yarn, and if you do use light colors, then that's fine too, because you can just put it on a 40-degree wash and it should be absolutely fine. So those are the fingerless mittens finished. I haven't finished writing the pattern or finished double checking the pattern, so I will recheck the pattern, and at some point I will put the pattern up on my Ravelry, and I will let you know when that is done, and also put the link to the pattern in my description below. So in today's video, I also want to talk to you about the holes in your knitting. So I showed you in today's video how to fix a little hole that was on the thumb section, where you could take the needle outside, wear the glove, and then just fix the hole so you can actually see where the hole is. It's easier. I find it's easier to do it while it's on your hand. But of course, put it on, find where the holes are, put little markers on the holes, and then take the glove off and sew it that way. It all depends on what you want to do. Some people are not as dexterous, and I totally understand that. However, you must come across some holes in your knitting. I don't know about everyone else, but I definitely come across holes in my knitting. That's for a variety of reasons. These things happen. Sometimes you just overlook it. Sometimes you have to go all the way back and pick it up. But it does happen. If it's just in the run of the pattern, then just take a needle and thread and sew it into with the yarn that you're using. If it is a big issue, and also when you if you want to work on it later, I'd put a stitch marker on that little area so that you know you need to fix that area. So that's what I would do. You could frog it. Now I'll talk about frogging as an issue. So if people who don't know what frogging is a knitting terminology. If you are going to knit something and realize you made a mistake a little way down below, what you want to do is unravel the stitches till you get to the mistake. Every time you pull it, they're ripping the yarn away. So instead of calling it, they call it rip it, rip it, rip it. And therefore the terminology turned up called frogging. I do not know where that came from, but we just say we're frogging our knitting. And if you hear a knitter saying frogging the knitting, it means you're ripping the knitting out. If you want to frog the knitting, you could frog it and then work your way back. And I know some people are perfectionists. They want to frog it. Even if it's plain, and I know you may not want to frog this one because it's quite intricate and complex, but sometimes it's just a simple one. You think, oh, I just wanted to frog. Especially things that are pretty plain and unpatterned. And if that is the case, then you can see the issue. So one way of doing that is frogging it. The second one, but if it's all the way down, you don't want to frog it too much. So what you could do, find where it is, hold it with a stitch marker, take a crochet needle and work your way up. And there are videos that you can see to see how to pick that up all the way up so you get to the top where you drop the stitch. So that is also another way of fixing it. So there's a couple of ways there regarding frogging and using a crochet hook. And I'm not really a crocheter, but honestly, once you see a couple of videos on that, if you're unsure, it's pretty simple. The other mistake you might come across would be if you find an extra stitch or stitch that's dropped. Like you say, for example, you need to have 10 stitches on a needle at the end of the row and it's 9 stitches and you go, oh, where did I drop that stitch? What happens when you drop a stitch? Well, the best thing to do is unpick and then find it and repick it again. The other thing I would say, and this is a tip, especially when I sometimes work with my shawls, I'm talking about 300 to 400 stitches on one long interchangeable needle because of the cord. So circular needles have a cord in between and it's a lot easier and it can take a lot of stitches than just one straight needle, even if I'm working in the straight. So I use the circular needle with the cord in between. And if I've got 300 to 400 stitches on there, imagine trying to find out you dropped one stitch or you misplaced one stitch. And if it's a complicated pattern, you're thinking, where did that stitch go? The best way of doing this, I would say, is to use stitch markers. There are a variety of beautiful stitch markers out there with beautiful little dangly bits. I don't actually have many beautiful stitch markers because I haven't really bought many, but I'll show you one that I've made. I've made this little thing, so just so that you can see. I'll turn it the right way around. It's a little dangly little star. I actually made that because I can make jewelry. I'm just seeing if I can find another. So you can use a variety of these little stitch markers and the little circle there. Your needle will go in there. So you could use a good few of these. You could use this little washer. I use the washers because they're very cheap. I think I bought it for €1. I was in Portugal at the time. €1.50, €1.30, and you get like 200 in the box. And I've got hundreds of these lying around. They fall all over the place. But when you're working with 300 to 400 stitches, the reason I prefer the simpler stitch markers is because I find the dangly bits sometimes get stuck in your knitting as much as they look pretty and but yeah, they get stuck in your knitting. Sometimes they get stuck in your knitting, and honestly, if you're knitting really fast, you don't have time for it getting stuck or caught up. So I'd rather use the simpler stitch markers. So if you go let's just say you might not be working with 400 stitches, but if you're working with 50 to 100 stitches, at every 10 stitch mark or every repeat, put a stitch marker there. There's nothing wrong in just moving a stitch mark over when you get to it. So put a stitch marker at every point. That means when you're checking your knitting, at every 10 stitches, you can say, okay, got 10 there, got 10 there, got 10 there, got 10 there, or 15 or whatever your count is. And then you can tell where you went wrong. You're like, oh, I got 9 here. What happened there? And immediately you can tell what had happened. So use stitch markers. They are your best friend. It took me a while to realize how important stitch markers are. And that will really help you stop you from dropping stitches, checking quickly. Lots of things can happen using stitch markers. So I would say make that your best friend. And if you do an accidental increase or decrease, I would say frog your knitting. because that will help. Or if you can read your work, and it's best if you can learn to read your knitting, then you can read your knitting and you can find it over there. And that also includes the accidental yarn over. So if you are knitting, if you're going from between knit and purl, or if you do 5 knit stitches, then do a purl stitches, or if you're doing ribbing, which is knit one, this is a knit one, purl one, rib. You're knitting one, purling one, knitting one, purling one, and you find out that you did not move your yarn over at the correct spot. You've now created a new stitch by mistake. So you need to fix that, and you could either drop the yarn over on the next round, or you could frog your knitting depending on where you are in your knitting. You will see the yarn over pretty quickly because it looks odd. And I think a lot of the things I'm telling you, it does come with a lot of practice. It takes time. I did not get here overnight. I did not learn when I made the mistake what that mistake was and how did that come about easily. I did not have YouTube. I did not look at YouTube back in the day. A lot of that was trial and error and fixing the issues by myself. So hopefully this video will help you. And if you want a more in-depth video where someone's showing you how to fix that extra accidental yarn over, just YouTube it and check out some videos, and they'll show you exactly what they're doing. The last thing I want to talk about is problems that arrive when you haven't practiced the new stitch or the new work that you're going to do. Now, I probably will be doing a whole thing on swatching. I'll do a whole video on swatching. When you swatch, when the pattern says to swatch that new pattern, swatch it. Practice it. Maybe, I know you want to delve into the new project. Trust me, I want to delve in. But some of the projects that I have done are so complicated, especially with the Japanese knitting techniques. And because I design it where I have to swatch a few times for each piece that I do, even if it's a small swatch or a bigger swatch. Say the purposes of this, I would do a smaller swatch, a swatch that's about that big. Sometimes you don't even have to do the complete swatch, as long as you're checking in the pattern. 99% of the time, if it's a complicated pattern, I can tell where I've gone wrong in a swatch. You want to make sure that you know what the person who's written the pattern is talking about when they say either a yarn over or an SSK or any of the other knitting terminologies. So when they say that, you know immediately what they're talking about if you swatch, and you can just easily, seamlessly go through the pattern. If you haven't swatched, you're having to learn as you go along, and that does take time and probably mistakes and probably frogging your work. So I would say make sure that you swatch everything that you do. And also it's important to swatch, even if you're doing a flat piece, it's just for gauge. But the best way to fixing any mistakes, best way to stop you from ripping your work or frogging your work is to make sure that you swatch. That's the best tip I can give you, is swatch, and also put your stitch markers in. That would really help you in there. So that's all I want to talk about today. In today's video, it's about these mittens and how I fixed the hole in them. I put it like that, looks weird, but fine. And then also I wanted to give you some ideas on what to do if you got simple mistakes. Of course, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments box. I'll try and endeavor to answer everything. This channel is called the Knitflix Explorer, where I talk all things knitting, travel, and things I watch on TV. So thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely day.